I don't want to sound repetitive. However, this information I'm giving you might help you in future because you never know, or it might help one of your friend. I want you to look at these three institutions: the banks, the fund manager who does money market fund, and institution that trades with shares. Those three institutions are one of the most important institutions that we have today. But what I can tell you is they have a common problem, and the problem is they either ignore or they have not reached a point of looking beyond the customer's exit. For example, if you go to a bank and you have the money there, unfortunately you die. What happens to that money? Go to money market fund and ask them the same question. If you go to institutions that do shares, they have a similar problem, and that contributes so much to the body we call UFA, or Unclaimed Financial Asset Authority. You find that every year there are billions of money that are put into that account. They do not help their family, and even the family who ought to have benefited from these funds upon the death of the account holders, they actually die without ever having had a taste of that money. And one of the things that actually misses a very simple document. Very simple document in this sense. If, for example, you take bank and you are not opening a joint account with your spouse, because it's only a situation when you have opened a joint account with your spouse that would allow a seamless transfer of rights to your spouse upon the account holder's death. Yeah. So the other alternative they ought to bring to us, because we have seen countries outside Kenya that are doing that. There's a document that's called a code or payable on death designation form. That form gives the authority to the appointed beneficiary to take over the account upon death, and that limits or shortens the journey of access of this fund, because there is no probate process that is required to access or to unlock this account. The same thing happens to a money and a money market fund because of how it is structured. And I told you in a previous video that if you have money under your money market fund account, and God forbid you happen to die, that money cannot be touched. It cannot be accessed until the family brings in grant letter from the court, and that can take long time. And we have seen even major families actually crying foul that they cannot access the money that ought to be benefiting them, even when they really need that money. Look at the case of this judge who died recently, and the family members were actually suffering. They were unwell and could not access the services for health simply because the money is locked. So that is another major thing. And if you also go to institutions that do trade in shares, for example, we have a lot of banks that we are always encouraged to buy stock or shares. It is even more difficult to deal with the access of these shares upon the death of the shareholder. And it becomes even more difficult rather, when there is a simple dispute, because shares and land are almost in the same category. When you die and you had a piece of land, let's say it's a man that has died and has left a wife and children, what you will find is the parents and the sibling want a share of that piece of land. The same thing happens with shares. If they discover that you have shares from bank A, bank B, this institution, the family members will most definitely want to have a piece. So the dispute that arises, maybe one of the members of the family is not cooperating, because the requirement is, while you are appointing the administrator of your estate, you have to all of you agree. So until that agreement is settled, there's nothing that will happen. So you would find that those shares, yes, they are generating. Unfortunately, the family members are suffering, and yet they have money. So in other countries, what they have allowed is a document called TOD, TOD, that is transfer on death designation, meaning that you as the shareholder, or you as the person having these shares, is allowed to appoint one person, a called beneficiary, and you have given him right to inherit these shares in the event you are not there. But come back to our country, there's nothing like that. You would require to either form a trust or follow the process of the will or the probate rather, and that can be scary. I want to tell you that. So yes, we have said that this is a challenge. Which is the simplest way to resolve this? Is by forming what we call a trust. A trust is one tool that helps the family, or that helps you, the main person, to consolidate everything that you have. Let's say you have a bank account here, you own some shares, you have a business here, you have a motor vehicle, you own property, you have piece of land, you have money market fund. So all those assets can be put under one basket we call trust. And then that trust, you appoint either a firm, a private firm, or a corporate institution to oversee that particular trust. They will have the mandate, they will have the authority to discharge anything and to manage whatever that is in that trust. Sometimes the price of running the trust can vary depending with the structure of the trustee. When we talk of a corporate trustee, they have specific fee they charge to set up, but that is the most important tool you could have. And if you want to understand how to set up a trust and what type of a trust you can form depending with the asset class you hold, just write the word trust or legacy, and I also put my number there so that you can reach out and we can be able to have a talk and see the way through. So guys, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Just share that video to your colleagues, to your friends, to family members, so that they can also learn and like it, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Jelly Shield Legacy Hub, and probably it can be able to be seen by other people. So see you guys in our next episode.